We're ready to get started here. My name is Bill Seagroves, if I haven't had the pleasure of meeting you. I'm the head of marketing here at CLIP. Today, I've got Bill Crawford with me. He's our lead trainer, and he's going to run us through how to use the CLIP2Go app. If you're not using it, it's definitely a good way to become a little more efficient. Trying to replace your route sheets, trying to make sure that that you can get recording done without error, or at least a lot of error. We're all fallible, I guess, but it's a great tool to use. It's going to save you a bunch of time in the field. And I will pass it over to Bill Crawford. And again, at the end, we'll have a 15-minute Q&A session. So please, if you have any questions, save them till the end. Write them down, take a note, and if we don't get to it at the end, we will definitely answer those for you. But I'll pass it off to Bill Crawford. Here you go.
All right, so the webinar is actually going to be in two parts. The first part will be what you have to have set up in ClipXE in the office in order to run CLIP2Go. And actually, we'll take any questions related to that specific section when we get to the end of that. And then the last part will be actually the use of CLIP2Go out in the field. And again, at the end of that section, we'll take questions about that, plus any others that might have come up. Okay, the setup is fairly simple. First of all, you need to have your employees set up in CLIP. And so you go to your customer list. I'm going to just show you, you can filter on employees to see who is set up, if anyone. But if to set up an employee, you would click Add New. And you would give them an employee customer number. Now, some folks have a certain customer number range just for employees, so you can just select a number in that number range. We'll just go to Start, and we'll go Litchfield for our pattern. And then this is going to be then Daffy Duck. And you can put in address, et cetera, if you have it for the employee, but you don't have to. And then when you save it, in the customer screen that comes up, you'll notice you have these check boxes. So for an employee, you need to check employee and create a 2-character code. And we recommend you do the first 2 letters of the first name and the first 2 letters of the last name. That way, when you're looking at a list of your employees, it'll be easier to tell who you're looking at, what that particular person is. Some companies use, say, the last 4 digits of the Social Security number or some other designator. That's all fine. It's just required, and it's required to have 4 characters. All right, so now I hit save. If you haven't done so already, then what you'll need to do is create your list of employees, just as I went through that process. Now, the next setup then is under System, and you need to set up your crews. So here we have our crews. We have a mowing crew, irrigation crew, another mowing crew, and so on. And if you're starting from scratch, you would click Add Crew, enter the number here. So we'll see if we can do a 125 for a crew number. Okay, and then over here, the crew name. This should be, say, an enhancement crew. Now, again, the main driver of this is the crew number, not so much the description. Description just, again, gives you a little bit more information. We save this, and then I come down, add employees, and here's now a list of my employees, including Daffy Duck. So I now add who's typically on this crew. Now, you may not know exactly who's going to be on a crew, and you may think, well, we have a lot of variation day to day on who's actually on the crew. As we'll see in the app, you're able to manage who's on the crew on any given day. But the main purpose of this is to give you accurate job costing information, because when you have a job that goes from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., If you have 2 men on the crew, that's actually 2 man hours. If you have 3 men, it's 3 man hours, 1 man is 1 man hour, and so on. And so you want to have an accurate body count, so to speak, of who's on the crew to give you accurate start and stop, or accurate time spent on the job. So even if you don't know exactly who's going to be on the crew, you probably know that it's typically a 2-man crew or 3-man crew. So just populate it with the correct number of employees. Okay, the next thing you want to do after setting up crews is you want to be able to allow your crew leaders to access CLIP2Go. So that's also done under system, but then under passwords. So we've got our passwords are set here. And so I'm going to add a new user. Oh my. Let me see what this says real quick, if it's something serious. Nope. All right, so I'm going to have to open up Clip again. Sorry about that. I hate it when that happens in public. All right, so we come back to the system and passwords, set passwords. What I'll do is I'll look at an existing employee. So I've got Jim here as an existing employee. So I'll hit edit user. And so here now are where you can give permissions for Jim. Now let's say Jim's no longer with us. So I want this to be Daffy. So I'll put Daffy there and I'll give him the password, Daffy, and then save this. And then what you're able to do is you would come over here to CLIP2Go, Clip Connect, and set the permissions that you want for this particular user. So Daffy's here. I don't want Daffy to access customer information on CLIP2Go, but that is a setting you can select for management staff who might be using CLIP2Go in the field to look up customers and such, and we'll see more of that later. But typically you'd have route sheets selected, and then within route sheets, this is kind of a sample change crew and crew list that allows them to look at work for other crews. So that means if they have to pick up some work that another crew can't get to that day, they're able to see that, and then they're able to change the crew so that they get credit for doing the job rather than the original crew. Change crew members, that allows them to show who's actually on the crew that day by deleting and adding the right bodies. Truck number, if you have truck numbers, you can have them change that. Add means they're able to add a job from in Clip2Go. That means if they're at a property and they see that the beds need to be weeded, they can add the bed maintenance job for that customer, even though it wasn't on the schedule. Skip and add invoice notes, I'm not checking because I think those are better handled in the office, but that's up to you to decide whether in your situation you want to grant them those capabilities. You want to make sure they can see the budgeted man hours. If you have trouble with people remembering to enter materials, you can check force material screen up, and then while they're in that job, before they close it out, it'll open up the material list, if any, for them to see and record materials. View crew position, that is so you can geostamp where the crew is throughout the day. And then finally, notes, you want them to be able to see notes. So I would say this is kind of the typical setup here. Now, once you've set up one employee, if you're setting up multiple employees, there's a very helpful snipping tool you can use. So you just come down here, search for snippet, and then you can make a screenshot of this and refer to it when you set up subsequent employees. All right, so what we've done now is we have looked at adding your employees, setting up crews, and then setting up users. The users all employees don't have to be a user, but the user would typically be the crew lead that you have. Now, If you need to add more CLIP2Go licenses, you come up to help here, manage my account, and it opens up then a web page, which I'll drag over from my other screen. And here you're able then to edit the number of users for CLIP2Go. So I want to say change this to 4 users so I can save it. And you will see then also what new charge, if any, that will give you for the users. So that's how you would add new users. All right, so we've set up employees, we've set up crews, we've set up the users. Now there are a couple other system setups. One is here, again, under System, Company Settings. You need to create a company password for CLIP2Go, and we'll see that in a few moments when we go to access and sign into the app. So I go to Company Settings, and here's the password. Now, in this case, you're not seeing it because I'm signed in at a level that doesn't allow this person to view the password. So if that's your case, then you need to get whoever is the admin for CLIP to set up the password and show it to you. So I'll go in now as admin because I can do that here. So I go log off, and then so now I come back up to System, Company Settings, and see here's the password, which is, in my case, the word password. This is case sensitive when your crews log in. So just keep that in mind. Some of the other fields are not, but this one is. So this is one field you set up. The other is the timeout for CLIP2Go. The default, I believe, is 0, which means as soon as you log into CLIP2Go, it's going to time out. You want to give it a number here. I've got it set for, excuse me, 720 minutes, which is 12 hours. If it's set for a shorter period of time, then the crew will be automatically logged out of the app. They can always log back in, and if they're logged out, it doesn't affect the clock running on whatever job they're working on. But so you can use your discretion as to how much time you want to put in this. I think 720 is the ceiling on that. Okay, so that means we're all set up and we're almost ready to go. If you have never used CLIP2Go before, there's one other thing you should do. Under System, there is an option here that says Check Notes. Now, I'm not going to click on it because this can take a few minutes to run. What this does is it goes through the notes, the route sheet notes, etc., and checks for certain characters that are used in programming, for instance, the ampersand and some others, because when you upload to CLIP2Go and during the upload process, when the program comes across certain characters, if they're in the notes field, it can get confused because it sees this character that's used in programming, but it's a note, so it's saying, okay, what does this want me to do? What command am I being given as a program? So what we do, and then it throws an error. So what we do with Check Notes is we go through the notes and we just eliminate any odd characters. Shouldn't change the content or meaning of the notes. Likewise, if for some reason you've set up a job on the schedule, so instead of being in 2019, it's set for 1919 or 1920 or some really whacked date, or maybe it's set for 2720, far in the future date. It will pick up on that and allow you to correct any erroneous dates that are, again, that dates that seem to obviously be typos there. Again, if you've not used CLIP2Go before, I suggest before you start up, you run through this Check Notes. It's something you should only have to do once, really, for that. Okay, so that is the setup for CLIP2Go. Now, I'm open for questions. If you've got a question about setting up CLIP2Go in your CLIP program prior to are actually going into the app. So any questions about this? Bill, do you need to unmute everybody or or you can unmute yourself and ask questions. So
yeah, I was going to say, for those who need to ask a question, there's, where is it? You can raise your hand, I think. There's reactions down at the bottom. If you want to put the clap reaction in like that, we will unmute you and you can ask your question. Or if you want to just unmute and ask a question, feel free.
Or if you want to wait till the end, you can do that as well. But we'll just do a pause now while something might be fresh in your mind. Okay, doesn't look like we have any questions yet. Oh, wait, do we? Hold on. We have a chat here.
Yeah, so from Melody, employee IDs cannot duplicate. How do you suggest dealing with that?
Okay, good question. So what she's identifying is that when you set up an employee here, these need to be unique. And so if you've got 3 John Smiths, you can only do one as JOSM. So what you might do is JOS1, JOS2 for the duplicates, or maybe some other designator. But you're correct. Since you need to have a unique ID for each employee, if you have employees with the same name, you'll have to figure out some consistent method of handling the duplicate. Again, it might be just dropping the last letter, replacing it with a number. I think you could use I don't know if you can use symbols here, like an asterisk or exclamation point instead of a number if you'd prefer to. But that's a good question, and I'm not sure otherwise what to say about that. By the way, if any of you hear a question and you've addressed that issue in your own use, let us know. Feel free to share with us so we can kind of group think this. Okay, anything else? Okay, so the next stage then will be the CLIP2Go. Now, what I'm going to do is let me go back a screen. So we're going to actually use the browser for this rather than me try to pull it up on an app emulator. And actually, as we'll see in a bit, the ability of you to use the browser can come in handy. To get ahead a little bit, the question often comes up, what if there are changes in the schedule during the day and those have to be communicated to the crew? What's the best way to do that? Well, as we'll see, one way to do that is by the office having a login for CLIP2Go and then making the change through CLIP2Go, rather than making the change in CLIP and pushing out that change. So we'll look at that in a moment. All right, if you want to use CLIP2Go in your browser, you just come to your search engine. Now I use Google, and you just put in CLIP2Go. This works as well in Bing and other searches. And this first return here, CLIP2Go company login, you click on, and it takes you to the login screen. Now, I mentioned earlier that you needed a company password. So let me tell you that the 2 logins are this. There's a company login, which are the first 2. And that takes you to your specific company information at the website clip2go.net. So every CLIP user, every company, they push out their information, but it can only be accessed based on the credentials for that company. And the credentials are the following. Your CLIP number, so my program number is 105. And so that's where you see up here, CLIP number 105 in your system, whatever your CLIP number is. And then I do that company password. So I'm going to do PASSWORD, all lowercase. And then the user. So I'm going to log in as Bill. and Bill. Or we could, if you'd set up Daffy, you could log in as Daffy. So then we click sign in. And now I'm signed in. So the login screen is four fields need to be filled out. The CLIP number for your CLIP program, the company password, that gets you into your company information, your schedules, your customers, etc. And then the second set of logins, the username and password, allows that user to view that information with the permissions and restrictions that you've granted to him or to her. So here's what the screen is, and we're using my browser, so you got a lot of white space here. Basically, on a phone or tablet, you'd see the menu here. First, if you have Spanish-speaking employees, you can change the language. And so we're going to change this to, and each user can do this. So this is not necessarily something you have to do company-wide. They can do it on a case-by-case basis. So hit save. And so see, we've got now the buttons are in Spanish. If we go into one of the screens. Now, one thing is I've got an automatic Spanish to English translator on my system because I live in Costa Rica. So, but in your case, you would still see Spanish here. Again, I'm not seeing it just because I have Google Translate automatically translate pages for me. Should have thought of that before we started. But here, so you can see what it looks like. And basically throughout the program now, the fields are all labeled in Spanish, which is very helpful for your Spanish-speaking employees. So we'll flip back to English. Okay. So here now is the CLIP2Go menu. The first thing we'll look at is for your field staff. How will they use this? But before we do that, I want to make sure that we cover sending work up to CLIP2Go. So here we are in CLIP2Go, but I'm going to log out and come back into CLIP. So here's CLIP. All right, so sending out work, because CLIP2Go works on what we call a push-pull process. You push information out to the clip2go.net website. The crew logs in, they make changes, that start time, stop time, etc. And then you pull or receive the information back. So just like when you print route sheets, the first thing you do, you go to Get Jobs, you give it a date, and you refresh the workbank. So we're going to refresh the workbank for today. So having refreshed the workbank, typically the next stage is to print route sheets, but that is replaced by sending the CLIP2Go. So I come here to send, and actually gives me the route sheet window. And then I come here to upload to CLIP2Go. Now, a couple things to keep in mind. One is, even though I have a single crew selected, it's going to push up the entire content of the workbank. And unless I have this, this will change what goes up. If I say no, it'll only push up the work on the schedule for today. So we're going to say yes to this to give us some past work as well for an illustration I'll give you later. So having done the settings I want, again, basically the overdue work, yes or no, I come down and I click Upload to CLIP2Go. And this brings us to this screen. If you are initially using CLIP2Go, you want to make sure you choose fields in this bottom section, not route sheets only. And you'll want to send up all your active customers. It's a judgment call as to whether you want to send up on-hold customers. If you have managers using CLIP2Go in the field, then that might be something that they would want to see. Typically, you don't send up on-hold, but again, that's up to you. Include vendors. Again, you can set up vendors in CLIP. If you want those included, you can check that box. But the two primary ones are active customers and include employees. Now, include employees means that Daffy Duck, whom we've now created as a user and as an employee, he will now be available at CLIP2Go in the app to be selected for a crew. Okay, show history back. You might go back to the beginning of the year or maybe to last year. Customers with activity after. So this will show, if you've got some very inactive accounts, you don't necessarily want to push them out. And include no activity would make sure you get any new customers who haven't had any work actually done yet on their account. Otherwise, you can do customers active since, again, just to kind of control the results you're going to send up. And then if you use the CMS, you can send up future CMS activities to whatever date in the future that you want. The larger these database sets, so in other words, if you go back to like 2010 for history or et cetera, this process will take longer. Now, once you've sent this up, let's say you do CLIP2Go today, you send up the information, and then on Monday you come in and you're going to refresh it. If you've not added new customers or really much any new information, you could choose route sheet only. And see, by choosing this, it unchecks, grays out these other options, and the process will go a little faster. So you'll want to do this process definitely when you've added new customers, and definitely if you've added new employees and created new users. Okay, so we hit process and send. And it comes up with this window, and you hit process. If you did have notes in there that had some of those unusual characters, you would get an error during this process as it attempts to send up the notes. And we can deal with most of those errors from support. I guess we can deal with all of the errors you might get. So just contact us if you get an error the first time through this process. So as you see, it's taking a few moments. The larger your database, the more customers you're sending up, the longer this will take initially. And by the way, once you've sent up this information, it's going to stay at CLIP2Go.net. And if you send up new customers, it'll basically just update what's already at the CLIP2Go.net website. We had a cat run away a couple weeks ago and just got him replaced. And I was expecting the cat to be crawling all over me, which it usually does. It's just a little, a kitten, but he's asleep in my lap, so he won't interfere with this, for which I'm grateful. Okay, so now we're back here, which means that we've successfully sent the information up. So now I come here and I log in. All right, so back to here. For your crews then, what they would click on is route sheets. And when they click on route sheets, it takes them to the screen here where they can choose which crew they want to look at. So here are the crews we have set up. So we want to look at crew 1. Here are the employees who are assigned to crew 1. And if I needed to edit this, I could do so. So let's say Rich Walker is not there. I can hit delete here, and he's deleted. And I hit add, and then I can add the employee who took his place. So we'll say Daffy Duck did that. So we add. And again, so now we're managing the correct number of people. Plus, if you record employee information and recording jobs, these employees will be in the ones in customer history for this day for the jobs that are done. Then they're able to look at everything. So we did have some a delayed work. So let's look at see work here. And this tells us the count. So there are 40 properties here. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to come back here. And what you're able to do is you're able to check only show jobs due on and choose a specific date. So I'm going to choose May 8th. Now if I hit see work, it shows 17 jobs. Now, the benefit of this is it gives you the ability to load work for an entire week. That means on Monday morning, you can refresh for Friday of that week, push out all that work, and then your crew would simply come here on Monday, choose Monday's date, and do the work, and then they go in and choose Tuesday's date when they're ready to start Tuesday's jobs, and so on. So that makes it a little bit easier in the office, that you don't have to get in and download and send work every day. You can kind of do it more at your leisure for that. So we come back to see work here. And here now, again, is the list of work for that day. And we've got a list of 17. It shows 10. I come over here to next to see the rest of that list. And then we go back to previous for that. What they do then is they will, if this list should be in your routing order that you want. So you want them to go to the first account there. Now, if they need directions, you can hit the Google Maps here, and it will then track based on the location of the device and where this address is, and give them turn-by-turn directions using Google Maps. Otherwise, they come and they hit select. And now here would be a list of all the jobs on the schedule for this customer. And then when they get to the property, they hit start. And this now timestamps and geostamps that the job has begun. Now, one thing I want to show you is this 30 minutes here, the man hours. The man hours actually are adjusted based on how many people are on that crew. So in this case, there are 3 people on the crew, so they have 30 minutes on the property. If you were to look at this crew or this job in CLIP, it would show a budgeted time actually of 90 minutes, an hour 30, an hour and a half. So the program takes into account how many people are actually on the crew, and in so doing doesn't give them an artificially inflated budgeted time to do this. Now, once they're in this, so they've hit start, and now this is where they will hit in a moment when they're done. But these are some of the options that this user has. Now, as I said, I recommend that you not let them do invoice notes or skip, and those buttons would be grayed out, but the user I've selected has permission to do that. Add invoice note, though, it gives them the ability to put a note in there. The reason I suggest this not be given to the crew is that note, the invoice note, may slip past the office and go onto the invoice for the customer to see, which could be problematic. But add general note is one that you do want them to be able to do. So here they've got the name of the customer, and they can put a note in here, dead shrubs to the right of the entrance. So if they see something on the property that may need your attention as an office, they're able to add a note to that effect, and you'll see how that is communicated to the office in a moment. Add signature allows them to collect a signature from someone there. So it's just basically they can sign with their finger. Yeah, so that's really great. So save. Now we got a signature here. Oh, got to put the name in here. So Bill. Okay, so go back. So add signature, add another. That is where if there is another job that needs to be done, they can add it. So here would be another job that they could add to this to group this together. So there actually is not another job available for that. Okay. So now I want to. So there's a Russell Chiropractic. Let's select that again. So here we've got this. So it's not going to be add to group. right, so there we've got the job, and we will then hit the stop to end the job. Oh, sorry about that. Let me go back. Okay, so then you end the job here, and it timestamps when the job ends, and it drops off the list. You can show it if you need to see what has been done or completed. And then you go to the next one. So the list gets shorter as the day goes on. So we go to the next job. Here are the notes. We'll do start again for this. Now, a couple other things. If there are materials, you can come here to the material section and add what material might have been used. So let's say in this case, they applied some Roundup. We can hit select here, enter the quantity, save, and now the material has been added. In similar ways, if you're doing chemical application work, you can add the weather conditions here and save it. So it allows you to track weather. And then again, they can hit cancel. So let's say they get to a job and they hit start, but then they get out and they realize they cannot do the job. They can hit cancel to stop that and go back to then go to the next customer. And so here we hit end. Okay. And that's how they work through their day. So then we go back to, again, the route sheet, see work. We'll do one more. So we do Homer Simpson, select, start. I'll make a note in here. All right, so they're working their way through the day. And, oh, by the way, sorry, one other thing is when I hit end, notice this comes up. Is this job completely done? If you have a job that's going to go over into the next day, they can hit cancel here. And this job will then be shown as incomplete to be continued and finished the next day or a day later. So that gives you the ability to have those incomplete jobs. Okay, so we've recorded a few things. So you're in the office and you want to know what progress the crew has made. So you come here to receive, and it connects to CLIP2Go, and it tells you the files have been synced. Okay. There are notes. Do you want to see them? Yes. So here now is the notes. So here's for Russell Chiropractic, Dead Shrubs. Here's for Homer Simpson. You can hit preview here to see them. You can print this out. If you don't print them out, you can recover these notes in the future. So we'll hit return here. So we've synced the file. I say okay to that. Now, if you do want to look back on past notes, you can go to Files, CLIP2Go, Notes from Field. And here then would be notes from whatever date range you choose. All right, well, having received, then I come to record work here. And I come to download optional, CLIP2Go, and process. Finish processing CLIP2Go files. And notice now we have 3 jobs over here. So we go to mark work as done. And those are the 3 jobs that we've done using CLIP2Go. Now, what you're able to do is you're able then to edit the information. So the job doesn't actually get posted until you in the office post it. So you come down here to print tentative. And by looking at this tentative list, you might be able to see if something looks off, like the guy's finger twitched and he hit stop right after he hit start. Well, this would then show that to you. So here you made like $1,500 an hour on this job, $750, $800. And so if you notice something that needs to be edited when you look at this report, you can then go back into mark work as done. We'll say Crawford Tires, hit R to record, and then you can edit the information to correct it. So the office has the final say over what work is actually posted and what data is actually posted. Now, as you can see, this should save you substantially from what it otherwise might take, how long it otherwise might take to manually enter start and stop times. All right, so that's how the kind of the cycle for using CLIP2Go. You hit send, and then when you want to review, which you can do anytime during the day, you hit receive. Now, let's talk about the situation where you've been notified there's been a change in the schedule. So let's say one of your customers, Alexander Krieger, has called and said, I really need you to mow my property today. So one way to do that is in the CLIP program, you come into that customer's account, go to jobs, job detail, job schedule, put today's date in there and hit add job to workbank. Then you come back here and you'd hit send and go through the upload process again. That might be a little more cumbersome. One option you have is instead, so let's say you're in the office, you can log into CLIP2Go and you come to customer list and you search for that account. So we'll go Krieger, find. So here's her account. And just as a side note, if you have managers who want to use CLIP2Go, as you'll see, it can give them access to customer information in the field, which means that rather than calling the office to get some history on the customer or what services they get or that information, you can allow them to access it from here also. But in this case, we want to add Alexander Krieger to the schedule. So what you can do is from the office, you can hit select, go to jobs. Here's the mowing job. So we're going to go to schedule, and we're going to give it today's date, save, and hit add job to workbank. Now, if we go to the route sheet and see work, there she is. So it's kind of a judgment call. I mean, having an extra CLIP2Go license might cost you an extra $20 a month. But as you can see, that's a relatively easy way to then push out a job or show the crew the job it has been added to the schedule without you having to go through the push-pull, which can be a little more time-consuming. So they hit select here, start. And so even though she wasn't in the workbank in the office, you can go in here, record that it was done, and we come back to CLIP, and I hit receive. So files have been synced, go to record work, CLIP2Go to process, so okay. Then I go to record and process. So now this is at 4, and I go to, then mark work is done, and there she is. So that gives you an easy way to add work or to modify what's on the crew's schedule during the day if changes come into the office. A couple other things as we look then at CLIP2Go. Looks like we have got a couple questions we'll look at in a moment. One is you've got the ability for your crews to use this as a time clock. So here they can punch in and punch out. And this way it can help with some payroll hours. So that's one option you have for your employees for tracking their payroll time during the day. So at the beginning of the day, they would log in, at the end of the day, log out to give their payroll hours. Okay, Mr. Seagroves, do you have a couple questions from the studio audience?
It looks like Brett is asking a couple. He says, how do you track multiple properties on one street?
Okay, so we go to the route sheet. So let's say Green, Boone, and Cuomo are all in the same street. So we go to Seth Green, we do select here, and we start, and then we hit add another. And we go back to our list, and we choose Andrew Cuomo, or Boone first, sorry. Select, add to group, and then we go back, and select Cuomo, add to group. So now they are working on all three of those properties, and they have a start time for these. And when they get done and they go back to the truck, they then hit in group here. And now all three of those jobs are recorded. And if we show the ones that are done, then, well, we're not showing the, oh, that's because, let me go back. Okay. All right, so we grouped those. Now let's go back to CLIP to download them. So we can see what that looks like in the office. So there are those three with the G for grouped for that. Okay, what's the next question?
It looks like he also had a question about, he says when he hits the send button, it boots all of his employees off the CLIP2Go. That obviously shouldn't happen.
Well, no, actually, let's pause there for a moment.
Sure.
You're correct. If in the middle of the day you receive work and you want to send out new work, the send process does log out the users. It doesn't interrupt their work. So if they're in the middle of the job, the clock keeps running on that job, but it does force them to log in. Now, the message it gives them is that there's new information that's been added. I forget the exact phrasing of it, but basically it then gives the crew a heads up that, oh, I need to pay attention to the list to see if I've got a new customer. The way I did it earlier to bypass resending work by just going into CLIP2Go and adding Alexander Krieger's job is that the crew, unless they just remember who's on the list for that day, may not notice, not that they necessarily have to, because the job is now there, so they'll see it and they'll have to process it or to do that service. But you are correct. If you send out work from the office during the day, the CLIP2Go user is kicked out and needs to log back in. But again, nothing they're in the middle of doing is lost or affected by that.
Awesome. Okay, so Dwayne would like you to demonstrate how to view customer history in CLIP2Go.
Sure. Okay, so we come back in here, minimize clip. So from the home page or from the top where it says customer list, you click on customer list. You can search for a customer, or if you just hit select, it'll show you your entire, or I'm sorry, hit find. It'll show you your entire list. So I come to Mickey Mouse, select. So I'll actually go through each of these tabs. So here are jobs. So here is a list of the jobs that Mickey has. Here's the job detail. You can choose to show the amount or not, so you don't necessarily have to reveal that to employees. Here's in the schedule for that job. Here are the notes associated with it, plus any materials. So that's the jobs. And then history here then shows you, here's the history going back. Doesn't give you the detail that the program itself does. It more just gives you the list of what's been done. Here would be any CMS for up to 30 days out. If they have programs and rounds, here's the program that they have. And then here's property information, like what zone they might be in, any directions or notes you might have for the property. So that's the type of information that the manager or someone who is allowed to see customers can view. Likewise, you can send an email from here. So if you do allow your crews to view customers and you want them to email the customer that a job is done, they're able to do that from the app.
Awesome. Okay. It looks like Melody is asking, what if you send multiple crews to one property and how does each crew log in?
You can't do that, basically. If that's a regular anticipated occurrence, like let's say you have a big commercial account and you send 2 maintenance crews to it during the green season, what you can do is you can create a third super crew consisting of those 2 crews and those crew members. And then one crew can log in to record that they're doing that job underneath that super crew. And one issue is that if the crew is doing a job and they cannot start another job until that job is either finished or marked as incomplete. So the program doesn't allow one crew to start another job without stopping the first one, and that's to allow them to make sure they don't miss stuff. It forces them to close out the previous job, so you'll have an end time for that. So yeah, multiple crews doing one service. I know that can be a big issue with snow removal, where you might have more than one truck go to a property. Say you've got a huge parking lot or a stadium parking lot or something they have to do. That is something the program doesn't manage very well.
All right. We've got another one here from, let's see, Chris. I used the skip button for my crew, and if the job is set for every other week, 11 days apart, it will skip the job ahead 2 weeks instead of the next week. Any way to skip it to the next week?
Only in the office. So if you're in CLIP in the office and you're in record work, you can go to mark work is done. And so we want to skip Elizabeth Warren. You hit S and you get these options here. In the app, what it does is it sends it to the current next visit. I mean, so it'll send it, if it's a biweekly job, it'll send it 2 weeks into the future. It doesn't give you the finesse you have here, which is one of the reasons why I suggest you not allow the crews to do skip, because it doesn't give you the ability to fine tune when you want it to reappear on the schedule. Now, our online program, CLIP ITC, that app actually does allow the crew to see a screen pretty much like this and use a little more finesse in rescheduling a job. But that's why I say for CLIP XE users and CLIP2Go, I would leave the skip function to the office.
All right. And Melody's asking if it tracks travel time.
It does. Travel time in CLIP XE is the difference between the stop time of one job and the start time of the next job. Now, if you are tracking it, then when you're in the record work screen, one of the options here is record travel time. So you'll want to have this checked off. And then this will allow that travel time to be calculated and appear on reports. But yes, it will track travel time. Basically, what CLIP2Go does is it shifts the data entry from the office to the field. So pretty much the same data you now are entering from paper route sheets, the crew will be entering in the field, just to replace the office's efforts with the efforts of the crew.
All right. And Melody asked to follow up. If materials are preloaded in the job, does that auto-populate when materials are selected by the crew in CLIP2Go?
Yes. So if you're in CLIP2Go, and you have a customer, so we'll go back to Elizabeth Warren, select. If there's already materials associated with the mowing, when you click material, you will see them. Now, the crew has the additional capability of adding a material that might not be listed here. So let's say you've got the material leaf bags already there, but you don't have Roundup listed by default. You can then go in and add Roundup to an existing material. But if you have a material already associated with the job in that customer, when they click on the material button, they'll see it there. They won't have to go through the add process unless it's a material that wasn't associated with that job already.
Okay. I don't see any other questions for the group here. If anyone else has a question that they haven't punched into chat here, feel free to unmute yourself and ask it directly.
Also, you can email me directly following this to billc@clip.com, BILL, as in cat, @clip, CLIP.com. I'd be glad to answer questions afterwards. Now, Bill, will this video be made available as also?
Yep. So I was going to cover everything like that here at the end. I think we have one more question from Dwayne. He asks if CLIP2Go can show the customer's current balance due.
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know if I have seen that. Let me go into a customer and see what it looks like. If so, it'd probably be in history. And nothing here related to balance. No, I'm going to say that it will not show that.
Maybe a good recommendation for development. I don't think I have anything else, Mr. Crawford.
Nope, I'm good. Hope everyone stays safe and healthy and has a good weekend.
Indeed. Thank you so much for your time today, guys.
I just want to dive into the blue.